Let me share with you an ad that was in the London newspapers of 1900. It was not written by a Madison Avenue firm. It wasn't written by a wordsmith. It wasn't written by a spin master. The ad was written by someone who had a particular need. Here's the ad. It said, "Men wanted for hazardous journey. Small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success." It was signed by Ernest Shackleton, polar explorer. Now, today, you'd never put an ad like that in a newspaper. See, too many people would have their input. They want to make sure it was massaged correctly, that the words were exactly right. Well, let me tell you what happened with that ad. Anybody want to guess what happened with that ad? Would you answer that ad? Well, here's what happened. In speaking of the ad later, Shackleton said, "It seemed as though all the men in Great Britain were determined to accompany me. The response was so overwhelming." You see, one thing we demand in communications is honesty. Words have meaning. Every word has a specific meaning. And every time we try to massage those words to try to say what is correct and not what should be said, we're not really talking to people. We're talking at people. You know, as a trainer, as a consultant, I'm in a lot of organizations, and sometimes you go in and you can feel what that organization is like. You can cut it with a knife. You walk in and the culture of that organization just jumps out at you. So I've got some observations I want to share with you. Here's the first observation. The person at the top of the organization sets the tone for the way in which the entire organization functions. You can feel the thumbprint of that person at the top as soon as you walk in the door. There is no doubt about it. The way that person thinks, the way that person feels, the way that person deals with other individuals is thick. You can grasp it. You, as a leader and a manager, put your imprint on everything in an organization. You cannot lock yourself in a room or in a closet or anywhere you want to lock yourself and have no impact. That's why major league teams change managers. That's why football teams change coaches. That's why companies like Enron have had problems. Another observation. Someone within the organization has the solution to every perceived problem of the organization. You know, as a consultant, it's kind of interesting. You can walk into a place, to a business organization, and you can get the answer very quickly. You know how you get the answer? You ask the person who knows. And sometimes that person has been working there for 20 years, sitting back in a corner, and nobody has ever talked to them. And they know the answer. But nobody's ever asked them. See, that's what communications is all about. You, as a leader, have got to establish that channel of communications so that you ask that person. See, it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to do that. Another observation goes like this. An organization's work distribution and communication channels adapt to the individuals who join and leave the organization. Anybody here in human resources? Anybody who is, please put your hands like this for the next minute. Because you're not going to like what I have to say. You see, I was in the corporate world for a long time. And every so often, a company says, we're going to do something to become more effective, more efficient, to compete in the marketplace. We're going to implement job descriptions. So for the next 6 months, everybody in the organization fills out questionnaires, and they check little blocks, and they turn them in, and they compile them. And lo and behold, after 12 months, you have a description of every person who ever worked in that organization at that moment when the job description started. But you see, I equate this to what I call the racehorse theory. You see, we didn't know until photography was invented that at some point when that racehorse is running around the track, that all 4 legs are off the ground. And you can take a picture of a racehorse, and at some point it will not be touching the ground. What if that racehorse were a company? And what if we did job descriptions at the moment all 4 of those legs were off the ground? could we not then assume that race horses and your company can fly? Because at that particular point, that's what it is doing. But yet, we live with those job descriptions for a long time after we do them. I know, as a manager, I was never able to replace one person with another. No two people are exactly alike. When one person left my department, I would fill the position, but the person who came in was different. Different skills, different background. And guess what I did? I took all of those things that I had to get done, and I redistributed them. I gave them to different people. Because the person who came in could do something different than the person who left. You see, that's how organizations function. Organizations are living, breathing entities. Just like all of you in this room. There are no two of you alike. There are no two organizations alike. They're constantly growing. The restrictions of a job description prevent growth. They don't help it. I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. Because every organization has profound truths. You see, you walk in the door and you are told, we've always done it this way because this is the way it is done. And we know it's the way that it's done because we've always done it this way, and we wouldn't have been doing it this way if it isn't the way to do it. These are sacred cows. These are things you're not allowed to touch because we know that these are true. Ask yourselves these questions. Why was this procedure designed to work the way it does? And what prevents it from being changed? I'll give you a real-life example. I will not mention the name of the company because it is a company from this area, and if I mentioned the name, you would understand who the company was. But I went in on a consulting project one time, and I was tracking down the 5 copies of a form. You know, you got your basic blue copy and your pink copy and your gold copy and, well, you know, all the different colors of copies. So I decided to find out what was on those forms and who was using them. Well, the first 4 were pretty easy. The 5th one, though, was ripped off, put in a stack, put in an outbox. Once a day, somebody came to the outbox and took those blue forms to somebody else, who then checked off to make sure all the numbers were sequential. We have to make sure numbers are sequential. That's profound truth, by the way. Numbers are always sequential. They were put in a box. After the numbers were sequentially checked off, someone else came and got the forms, took them over to another secretary, who made sure that the first number check was accurate because we wanted to make sure that the person who checked the numbers at the beginning didn't miss something. The forms were then picked up again, taken over to another department, and I watched as those forms were put into a filing cabinet. The drawers were opened, and the drawers were full of pink and blue forms. Because somebody 20 years ago used to use that blue form. Guess what? They left. Now nobody used that form, but we still have it, and it's still on file.